It's Monday, December 27, 2021. This is GNN. Good morning, Indonesia, from the studio newsroom at Geography News Network headquarters here in Bandung. Good to be with you. I'm Hans Hafizin.
And my name is Inta Ratajwita. Few months ago, we all know a conference was being held in Glasgow, Scotland. That's a very important conference, right, Mr. Hans?
Yes, indeed. There were a 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference, more commonly known as COP26, was the 26th United Nations Climate Change Conference held at the CIC Center from 31 October to 13 November 2021.
COP or Conference of the Parties is United Nations Climate Change Conference that's held annually. The COP has been held 26 times, therefore the name is COP26.
Alright, we already connected with Ananda Julia from the front of the Save Earth Organization headquarters. We are going to know what they thought about COP26. Good morning, Ananda. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear your voice clearly, Mr. Hans.
That's good. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to hear what the activists thought about it. Please, Ananda.
Thank you, Mr. Currently, there is emergency regarding climate change and global warming is very drastic. So, the COP26 conference was held. COP26 conference itself is the largest and most important climate-related conference on this planet, as reported by United Nations website. What do you think about the holding of this COP26?
Hello, I'm Lola Rahmat. Yes, COP26 is momentum for all countries to promote climate change education to the public, especially in Indonesia, where the signs of global warming are very clear, ranging from the phenomenon of flooding to the melting of eternal snow on the peak of Mount Jaya Wijaya. I hope that COP26 can encourage local and central governments to come up with more serious policies to deal with climate change. Thank you.
Awareness about climate change and global warming is still very low among the public. We realize that such action must first be based on an understanding the issue. My hope for COP26 is to make education related to climate change issues an important component of climate change action.
Wow, thank you for opinion. Climate change will have an impact on every sector. Let's preserve this earth. I'm Ananda Julia Hikmah reporting back to studio.
Thank you, Ananda. That was the reaction from the activists. Next, we have a live report with Gina from Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia to know the college students' opinions about this conference. Okay, Gina, can you hear my voice?
Be able, Miss Intan.
Yes, please, Mrs. Gina.
COP26 is the largest and most important climate-related conference on the planet. The United Nations is hosting a major event in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, called Earth Summit. During the event, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change (UNFCCC) was adopted. Through the UNFCCC, countries agree to stabilize greenhouse gas concentration in the atmosphere to prevent harmful interference human activities in the climate system. Climate change has turned into a life-threatening global emergency in the last 3 decades. If been with student, please introduce yourself and express your opinion about it.
First of all, thanks for having us. If you ask me about this, I want to say that agreement is good. Every step, every agreement is good to hear. But I doubt every country can running this agreement with well. delicious and polished would be nice to run from the center first and then down because the highest power holder is at center. This is a good step where this program reminds us to the importance of keeping our earth getting older. Yes, climate change is a real threat that we are facing first, present, and later. If we don't take immediate action, it is not impossible that our life will be increasingly disrupted in the future. I fully support the implementation of this event regularly every year.
As we know that COP26 is a conference on climate that is regularly held. In that conference, many countries are committed to maintaining climate change. In its annual meeting, it also always produces new agreements and plans to limit global warming. At COP26 this time, the Glasgow Climate Pact was produced, which is an agreement reached by all participating countries with the aim of preventing global temperature increases and minimizing the impact of climate change. One of the most interesting things about the Glasgow Climate Pact is that for the first time coal has been specifically regulated to stop its use globally. Although the gradual discontinuation of the Glasgow Climate Pact, it is also need to be appreciated as a form of maintaining the commitment of all countries in preventing a global temperature rise up to 2 degrees Celsius. In the future, I hope that what was agreed in COP26 is not only a mere commitment, but is actually carried out well. It is also important to monitor whether the agreements are complied with by all signatory countries. Not only state government delegation, groups relate to climate change issues such as business people, environmental activist groups, as well as civil society groups and indigenous peoples must also be involved in efforts to minimize the impact of climate change. COP26 should be a momentum for all relevant parties to take an attitude to save the preservation of the earth and everything in it. For that, it is important to understand what was discussed and materialized from the COP26 conference.
Thanks for the opinion, Ms. Hafsah. Climate change will have an impact on every sector. Let's preserve this earth. I'm Gina Warapsari Agustina, reporting back to the studio.
Thanks to our fellows in the field, it seems the Calligers want to keep observing this COP26 until realize. So, Miss Intan, what do you think about COP26?
This conference is mainly associated with the environment, and from the live report, many people are disappointed with the output of this conference.
That's true. I can see and hear from them. They seem not happy about this conference. Beyond what they said, we cannot just interpret it by ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, we have invited some people who have a power and now from the start until the end of COP26 to answer our curiosity. Please, let's welcome our guests. Good morning, Miss Hannah, Mr. Fauzan, and Mrs. Mehta.
How are you, sir, ma'am? Great. We have been talking about the COP26. Several activities and college students have said their opinion toward this world agenda. As the person who directly participated in the conference, would you please explain what is the COP26? What are its objective and outcome? What was the atmosphere at the conference like?
For nearly 3 decades, the UN has been bringing together almost every country on Earth for global climate summits called COPs, which stand for Conference of the Parties. In that time, climate change has gone from being a bridge issue to a global priority. So after 13 days of intense negotiations, COP26 concluded on Saturday, 13 November 2021, with every party at COP26 representing almost 200 countries agreeing the Glasgow Climate Pact. This global agreement will accelerate action on climate this decade and finally completes the Paris Rulebook. A record-breaking number of delegates gathered in Glasgow for this critical COP. A powerful progress has been made since the UK was designated the incoming presidency. The aim of the UK COP26 presidency was to keep alive the hope of limiting the rise in global temperature to 1.5 Celsius, and the Glasgow Climate Pact does just that. Combined with increased ambition and action from countries, 1.5 Celsius remains inside, but it will be only achieved if every country delivers on what they have pledged. So the goals of COP26 is first secure global net zero by mid-century and keep 1.5 degrees within reach. Countries are being asked to come forward with ambitious 2030 emission reduction targets that align with reaching net zero by the middle of the century. So to deliver on these stretching targets, countries will need to accelerate the pace of coal, curtail deforestation, speed up the switch to electric vehicles, and encourage investment in renewables. Second, adapt to protect communities and natural habitats. The climate is already changing and it will continue to change even as we reduce emission with devastating effect. At COP26, we need to work together to enable and encourage countries affected by climate change to protect and restore ecosystems, build defense, warning system, and resilient infrastructure and agriculture to avoid loss of homes, livelihoods, and even lives. Third, mobilize finance to deliver on our first two goals. Developed countries must make good on their promise to mobilize at least $100 billion in climate finance per year by 2020. International financial institutions must play their part, and we need work towards unleashing the trillions in private and public sector finance required to secure global net zero. And let's work together to deliver. We can only rise to the challenge of the climate crisis by working together. At COP26, we must finalize the Paris Rulebook and accelerate action to tackle the climate crisis through collaboration between government, businesses, and civil society.
Negotiators are working a lot of different mechanisms meant to help countries report climate targets and communicate with each other, including setting common timeframes from NDCs and common transparency framework that help countries see each other progress on build trust that everyone is doing their climate homework. They are also discussing how to carry out promises made on climate finance, especially how wealthier countries take on responsibility for helping poorer ones transition their economics and adapt to climate change. The actual negotiations are close to public, but there's a lot of activity that goes on outside meeting as well. Thousands of spectators from what known as observer organization, NGOs, youth organization, business, policy groups come to COP to cheer the delegates and progress on. Try and get them one way or another, and generally involve themselves in negotiation as much as possible from the sidelines. A lot of this group put on demonstration, discussion, and other events, many including celebrities and road leaders that get a lot of news attention you can. To some extent, inform what's going on this good. Countries can also put their own events, some which can be pretty telling about those countries' priorities inside the negotiations.
The number of participants registered for COP26 doubled from the last UN climate conference in 2019 to nearly 14,000, according to document published by the organizer. However, delegates and observers from poorer countries say their counterparts had struggled to attend the summit. Travel restrictions due to COVID-19 change in quarantine rules, and the high cost of lives and hotel have challenged many delegates to attend the conference virtually. The UK government, which is hosting the event, claimed in May that COP26 should be the most inclusive COP ever and offered a vaccine to all delegates, observers, and the media. However, participants say that vaccine and visas were hard to come by, most frustrating. However, in the most poor and middle-income countries have only been removed from the UK coronavirus red list, where income travelers need to be quarantined for 14 days, 2 weeks before the conference. Is such a short time. Some delegates had no choice but to stay home, while others booked the trip at the last minute and were only able to find accommodation in the neighbor city of Edinburgh. Elsewhere in the conference room, participants find it difficult to take part in the open sessions. To help maintain social distancing, many sessions were cancelled. However, in coalition of environmental groups was only given a few tickets to cover dozens of events. There's not enough space in the venue to accommodate everyone who is accredited, said Nathan Tanki of the Global Campaign to Demand Climate Justice. Overall result, the participants complained. A climate summit where the countries and people hardest hit by climate change cannot make their voice heard. Civil society, social movement, and government are finding it very difficult to get past all the hurdles necessary to get to the UK, Tanki said. Compared to the previous years, this COP is one of the most violent with rich countries. Each country entering the COP reviewing the implementation of the convention and other legal instruments adopted by the COP and takes the necessary decisions to promote the effective implementation of the conventions, including institutional and administrative arrangements.
It sounds complicated, but I'm pretty sure our viewers are a smart people. Very great, and thank you very much. We are so happy that we can bring the guests who are very informative about COP26. But please wait a moment, we will continue again after this commercial break.
The secret to any tasteful kitchen is, of course, quality ingredients. Start by measuring the space you want to fill. Select a nice, juicy rack of cabinets and cut them into more manageable sizes. Pre-cut white shelves are both affordable and tasty. But a little marinade really brings out the flavour. If you like it hot, like me, add some red doors for that extra spice. For warm lighting, you'll want to separate the white from the yellow. Bit of seasoning holds all the flavours together. And voila! Garnish with tea towels and remember to wash your hands before serving. Now, try your own recipe with our new customizable Method kitchens. You'll find all the ingredients in the 2016 IKEA catalogue, or as I like to call it, the IKEA cookbook.
We back again, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for waiting after our conversation with the guests. So, thank you again. Before we close our news, we still have our special guest. Please, no more time for waiting to our honorable special guest whom we respect a lot. Dear Madam President Wanda of Indonesia, we welcome you to our newsroom in headquarters. Good morning, Mrs. President. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Wow, for the first time I come to the studio on a sunny morning.
It's truly an honor to have Mrs. President in our headquarters. Ma'am, how is your response toward this conference?
At the final stage of the COP26 negotiation, Indonesia acknowledged the unbalanced outcome in the climate pact. Yet Indonesia welcomed the progress made in elaborating the Paris Rulebook and said it was ready to work on concrete implementation of the agreed document. Indonesia invited all nations to fulfill their pledges or promises with a spirit of togetherness and global collaboration with some flexibilities and compromises. Jakarta also pushed for higher ambition in the nearer future.
Thank you, ma'am. The response from Mrs. President is positive and wise. So, what is Indonesia's contribution to the conference?
Climate change has certainly been a life-threatening emergency in the last 3 decades. From various causes of the climate change, Indonesia is highlighted in the deforestation problem. So, as much as possible, we are trying to reduce the rate of deforestation as a form of contribution in tackling climate change. Then Indonesia will continue to mobilize financing for addressing climate change and innovative financing as well as financing a mix of green bonds and green sukuk.
Indeed, Mrs. President, this is what we should do, I guess. Next, we already heard from our previous guest who explained to us all kinds of COP26. But, Mrs. President, what is our commitment in COP26?
There were many other significant deals and announcements outside of the Glasgow Climate Pact, which can have major positive impacts if they are indeed implemented. These include first, coal. Developed countries should have kicked the habit of coal completely by the end of this decade, and developing countries need to have done so by 2040. And then cars. Governments should abandon the use of internal combustion engines and transition to electric vehicles. And next, cash. Developed countries need to honor the $100 billion climate finance pledge. And last, trees. Governments need to protect nature and to use the UK Prime Minister word and the massacre of the forest.
Thank you, Mrs. President, for coming, and thank you to our other guests in the studio. That's GNN for this Monday. Thank you for watching. If you have some suggestion and critique about this program, please visit us at www.gnnetwork.com or you may call us on the number below 647-555-896. Finally, I'm and all of the crew of GNN say thank you very much. I'm Intan.
And I'm Han. See you tomorrow and have a great day.